International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnny Burrell. Welcome to the program.
Hi, I'm Barbara Rogers. What do you think of when I say the phrase country western singer? I bet you think of a tall, lanky white guy in a cowboy hat and boots. Well, that's what used to be the only image, but that's changing, and someone who's helping to change it is with me right now. Let's swing over here and talk to Ms. Miko Marx. Yes, I know you're saying not a country western singer, but she is. Hi, Miko. It's so good to see you again.
It's so good to see you, Barbara. I'm just so glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, I've already said that you're a lovely, black, beautiful country western singer, but for somebody who hasn't heard of you, who doesn't know anything about you, what would you say when somebody says, well, who is Miko Marx?
I would say that I'm a well-versed singer, but my primary love is country music. I've been in love with country music since I was a little girl. And the storytelling, I'm a storyteller. I want people to know that. Yeah.
Good. I grew up in Tennessee, and I heard country western music 24/7, TV, radio, everywhere. That was about the only music I heard. You grew up in Flint, Michigan, not exactly a country music capital. How did you get such an interest in country music?
Well, my family migrated from Mississippi to the Midwest for the jobs in the automotive industry. So my grandma, she brought all that music with her from the South, and we would listen to the Grand Ole Opry at her house. We would watch Hee Haw. She would turn me on to Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, all the greats at that time. And so because of her, I was exposed to country music at a very young age because I lived with her while my mom went to work. And so I was just in love and enthralled with the voices and the stories, because as a kid, you want to hear stories. Mm-hmm. Tell me a story, and that's what country music did for me. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had such a natural instinct for country music, because a lot of people don't know we are one of the founding fathers of country music, black people.
Tell us about that, because I'd be willing to bet you most people out there don't know that.
Well, country
I don't
music,
know that.
Yeah, exactly. We brought the banjo over from Africa. And back then there was blues and then there was country. So they separated the genres by creating what they called hillbilly music. And then there was blues. And so I think there's a fine line between the two genres. It's just different instrumentation.
In fact, I've always said that country and blues are the same thing, just different beats.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But they both sort of tell those tales of woe most of the time.
Absolutely.
But then sometimes happy stories.
Absolutely. And I think that I didn't know that I was just resonating with my roots. Like, my natural instinct for the music was just in me from my ancestors.
In fact, it's so funny, because when I would tell people, like my ex-husband who grew up in California, when I would have the radio on and there would be country music that would come on, he'd say, oh, change that station. And I'd say, no, I like that song. And he's like, why do you like this hillbilly? That's what he would say. Why do you like this hillbilly music? And I said, because I grew up listening to this music. It reminds me of home. Exactly. So it does resonate. Now, it resonated with me. I didn't turn into a country and western singer. You did. So let's go from it resonating with you as a little girl to how did it become something that you actually did? You actually performed. How old were you when you had your first performance?
Oh, I must have been like 3 years old. My family would have gatherings and they'd say, Miko, come in here and sing us a song. Little did I know that I had a voice that they appreciated. I'd be like, well, give me a piece of candy or something. and they would.
She knew how to get something for it right exactly. In the beginning. Yeah.
But I just grew up in the church singing gospel music, really enthralled in the Winans, commissioned, and Rance Allen and Aretha Franklin and all those greats. And so I grew up singing. If you came out of my family, you were in the choir. Yeah. It didn't matter who you were or if you could sing or not. You were going to be in the choir.
I used to do the same thing. I used to sing in the choir, but I didn't become a professional. So now you started singing at 3, but you were singing for mainly your home audience and your church audience. At some point, you had to make that leap from just singing around the house to actually saying, this is something I want to do professionally? What was your first real, what you would consider a professional performance? How old were you then?
My first professional performance, I was 15. And I was a member of this small choir that did classical music at the time. And we were able to go to Carnegie Hall and sing. So when I walked into Carnegie Hall, I felt like a professional at what I was
well,
doing.
you should. That's you know what they say. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly.
So that's really something. So you were in Carnegie Hall at the age of 15. That's such a high pinnacle to start on. It must have been a little hard after that to sort of make your way into becoming a known professional.
Definitely. I had kind of put singing off onto the back burner because I wanted to go to college. I went to Grambling State and I wanted to finish, and I wanted to become an attorney. So I studied political science and got my degree in that area, and singing wasn't on the radar. It just wasn't. I met my husband down at Grambling. He was from California, and we moved out here, and I started working at a law firm, Keller Ehrman, which is it was one of the oldest firms in the city, and it's no longer around, but that's what I did. I just went to a regular day job, not thinking about singing at all.
So what happened? How did you get the idea that I'm going to leave law and go into country music? And at that time, I mean, really, was there anybody other than, I assume by that time Charlie Pride was known?
Absolutely known. And I would just be humming around the house, and my husband was like, you need to quit your job and you need to pursue this because you have a gift and I want to help you with that. He was like, so let the day job go and let's go full bore into music. And so we recorded a demo at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, and my husband just took that demo everywhere he could take it, whoever would listen, and that's what started. He got it into the right hands.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. And it's also wonderful to hear about that support that you got from your husband. In fact, sometimes women who are pursuing, especially something as different as what you were pursuing when there were no black female role models for you, will think, I can't really stop for a husband and kids because I've got to put every minute and energy I've got to this. Seems like you two really made it work, and you also have a son.
Yes, we made it work. My husband has always been supportive of my music, and we got my son involved in music. He's gone off to tour with Billie Eilish and do all these great things. He's in LA. He's done NPR, and he's just really taken off. And
tell us his name.
His name's Justin Hawkins. He goes by Jayhawk, but he's a really talented musical producer for different artists down in the LA area. And
so he doesn't perform himself?
He performs. He plays guitar.
Okay.
And he can sing, but he won't sing. But he sings through his instrument, in which I'm really proud of him. And yeah, so it's just been, our whole family has always been musical. And when I'd go to Nashville, Justin would go right along with us. And we had a chance to meet Charlie Pride on a Grand Ole Opry cruise. Our room was right next to Charlie's, and it was just such a wonderful experience for me and for my son to see, and just for us as a family. And it just kind of reaffirmed that we were on the path we should be on.
I read somewhere that actually one of your dreams was to be able to do a duet with Charlie Pride. Did you ever get to do that before he died?
I didn't get to do that, but I did get to. He heard me sing on this cruise that we were on, and he sat there at the show, and at the end of the show he just said,
oh,
and that just meant the world to me.
That is beautiful to get that kind of thumbs up from Charlie Pride.
Absolutely.
Well, now let's fast forward a little bit to the first actual recorded commercial for sale recording. I believe it was Freeway Bound. Yes, and your first album was also called Freeway Bound. How did that come about?
That came about, I met a gentleman by the name of Rod Carter, who had a record label here in Oakland, Mirror Me Records at the time, and he heard the demo and was like, we need to go to Nashville. And so we packed up our bags, went down to Nashville, met with a producer by the name of Ron Cornelius, who had all these songs, and really, he said, nobody's done it since Charlie Pride. He said, you might just be the one.
Wow.
And so we went ahead and recorded Freeway Bound down in Nashville, and I wrote 7 of the 10 songs on there, but Freeway Bound was from a writer down there. But it really signified my journey into country music. I was like, I'm getting on this road and I'm going. Freeway Bound, nothing's going to stop me.
And it was a very popular tune.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And then you came out with the album Freeway Bound, and then you came out with the second one, which is when I met you almost 20 years ago now. I can't believe that. But when you came out with It Feels Good.
Yes.
So many of the songs on there that I loved, and one of them really became a big hit, right? Locked and Loaded?
Locked and Loaded was just a party starter. It was a great tune. We filmed the video on Treasure Island at night, and it was gorgeous. Had all these Mustangs, 1967 Mustangs in the video, and it was just it was a good time. I had high hopes for country music and my participation in it at the time.
We're going to talk a little bit about what happened after that, but before we do, since somebody might not have heard Locked and Loaded, just tell them the story of Locked and Loaded, because I love it.
Locked and Loaded is about just being ready to go and get your best life, do whatever it takes to follow your dreams,
And grab your best man.
and grab your best man and go along for the ride, because it's a great one to be on.
Yeah, and you sing about I'm locked and loaded for your heart.
For your love, for your heart,
Yeah.
and let's go take this road together.
I think that's why I love it, because I love songs, and that's such a fun, upbeat one. The other song on there that I really, really loved that sort of broke my heart was 9 Going on 30, or 9
Years Pushing 30.
Yeah, 9 Years Pushing 30. Tell us a little bit about how that song came about, and that's not one you actually wrote, right?
No, I didn't write that song, but when I heard it, it just really painted a picture of many people of color, young men of color who, they're just babies, but they're being funneled into this system that really gives them no chance. So they're 9 years pushing 30 to life. And it was just heartbreaking. Just the story of how the grandma is taking care of the kid, and she's lived her life, she's tired, she doesn't have all the wherewithal to really push him to the level that he needs to be at, and it's just a travesty of how this cycle continues.
And even though you recorded that song 20 years ago, when I listened to it again, last night, I had forgotten, because I'd listened to your whole CD when I first got it, but I'd forgotten that song, and it hit me in a very different way after this summer of George Floyd and so many other young black men who have been killed by police, because it really speaks to what happens to those people's children.
Right.
Those men who are killed by police have children of their own, and what does that do to those children? And that's that 9-year-old pushing 30 to life, which is just heartbreaking. You have so many good songs. What percentage of the songs do you do yourself? And for the ones you don't do, what makes you choose them? Or do you have a favorite writer who writes most of your songs?
The song has to resonate with my spirit. It has to feel like something that I can really deliver to you authentically and really feel what the writer is giving. I wrote most of my earlier material, and recently I got with a writer by the name of Justin Phipps at Red Tone Records, who has really hit the nail on the head for my spirit and his writing style, and I'm really grateful. He wrote Goodnight America, and that's how I got back into the game of recording, and it was just a powerful song, and I was like, Miko, can you sing this? This is a truth teller. Can you really sing this?
Now before we talk about Goodnight America, we need to talk about that this is your latest album, and the album itself is called Our Country, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed about that right away as I was listening to it was not that all your music isn't serious, but this was serious in a somber kind of way. The songs on there, especially Goodnight America. Tell us about what Goodnight America represents.
Good night, down goes the sun. The day is almost done. America, your time has come.
Well, Goodnight America really just represents the country's history. and the foundation and what this country was really built on, and on the backs of who it was built upon. And I had never been political in my music before. It's been 13 years since I had recorded an album between the two, so I'd grown a lot. I had grown mentally, spiritually, and Goodnight America really asked for our country to admit its wrongs and rebuild the foundation that's initially there, because it's all systemic.
The foundation that they claimed was there.
Yes.
That never was.
Yes, it points out the
Exactly.
systemic racism, it points out the marginalization, the economic disparity, and to say you're rich and have all these things be because of your richness, it really shows who we are as a country and what we look like.
That song really resonated with me so much because, as I said, I grew up in the South during segregation. So when I heard the words to that song, I thought, yeah, it's time for a reckoning. Has long been time for a reckoning, and that song sort of says that.
Absolutely. And when he brought it to me, I was like, oh, I can't sing this. But then as I listened to it, I was like, no, you have to sing this.
And you do.
Thank you.
And you do a really good job with it. One of the other things I noticed about that particular album is, and maybe it's just my own church going, but I thought I heard a little more sort of gospel spiritual sound creeping in, and even a little bit of bluesy sounds creeping in, more so than in your first two CDs. Is that, did I just imagine that?
No, you did not imagine that. It is all, I'm a melting pot of music, and so I wanted to incorporate all of the things that influenced me on this album. I just didn't want to make it country. I just didn't want to make it, soulful. It had to have a culmination of all the three things, all the things that make me the artist that I am, and gospel is a part of that, blues is a part of that, and I'm glad I was able to funnel it into this album in the way that it came out. I like it.
Now, this interview is definitely about Miko, but we could not mention that you are no longer the only.
No.
Yes. And there was a wonderful article in the New York Times. First of all, did you ever think you would see yourself in an article in the New York Times?
No, ma'am.
So tell us about that article. Was it five other?
Five of us.
Five African-American, black, beautiful, country western singers, all female.
Yes, ma'am. That was such a moment. We all cried. The interviewer was a black female, and so we were all on this Zoom call with our emotions laid bare because we were together in the moment. And one of the girls on there, Reese Palmer, I had met her maybe 2005 in Nashville, and she was doing the same thing I was doing. Then there's Mickey Guyton, who was just nominated for a Grammy.
And also was the host of the country
ACMs.
Yeah, American Country Music Awards.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
First time ever a black person has been co-host.
Absolutely. And she is such a darling. And it's such a unity right now with us in country music, the women. We are supporting one another. We are teaching one another that, hey, there's enough sunshine for everyone. And so when one does well, we all lift her up. And that's a different spirit that I'm feeling in the music industry that I hadn't felt before. It used to be like all about myself and just me. Well, now there's not that. It's us. Because if we want change, it's going to take all of us to work together, and that's what we've been doing.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, when I saw that article, I'm so glad you sent it to me. I put it on my Facebook page. I told all my friends to read it. I was like, this is magnificent, because seeing all of those beautiful women there together.
It was so special. I didn't think I would see anything like that in my life. Like, I
That's
thought
what I was going to ask
that would never
you.
happen.
Yeah.
And for that to take place in this lifetime, let me know that change is on the horizon, and it's possible, and it's happening right now.
Someone asked Mickey Guyton when she had been chosen to host the awards if she ever dreamed of doing that, and she said not in a million years, because I didn't think it was ever going to be possible in my lifetime. So there she was.
Right.
Do you dream of something like that?
Absolutely. My dreams are boundless now because I see so many things happening in the industry that are changing, and changing for the better. There's a long way to go, don't get me wrong. There's a long way to go, but there is there's a movement right now because things need to evolve and elevate, and what better way to do that than to be more inclusive, allow more talent to come into the pool so you can get a more beautiful picture, a more beautiful painting as you know. I think it's great.
It is wonderful. I love seeing it, and just I'm so excited every time I see a first and then a second and a third and a fourth. It's like it's about time.
Yes, ma'am.
Just think now back to well, before I have you do that, first of all, tell me what you're looking at for your next project, since you waited 13 years between your second and your third CD, and you didn't do this one actually on a CD, didn't you do it on vinyl?
It's only on vinyl because for some reason, CDs aren't selling as they used to be because people are streaming, and so but people are collecting vinyls, which is kind of like a throwback to the 60s.
It actually surprises me because I would think that the young people who everybody thinks are the ones who are buying the music, they've probably never even seen a vinyl record.
Oh, they are the most collecting. They are collecting vinyls like you can't. Vinyls are going for more than you would think they are going for, depending on who the vinyl is, you know.
So what made you decide to do it that way?
Well, I didn't decide to do it that way. My label, Red Tone, decided to do that way, but now we're seeing there's a call for CDs, so we may make a small batch of those.
I had my hand up. When it came out and you said it's only on vinyl, I was like, I don't have any way to play vinyl anymore.
Right.
In fact, it's even hard these days to get a CD player. You know?
Right.
I do have one of those, but I have no way to play vinyl anymore. I used to have a whole bunch of vinyl LPs.
Everybody streams now, and it's like I just put out something today where I hit over 500,000 streams.
Wow.
That would have been amazing if I sold 500,000 CDs.
Wow.
But yeah, streaming is the new norm.
I still like CDs. My son, who's of course much younger, says, why don't you just take all those CDs and put them into your computer and throw out all those? I'm like, I don't want to throw them out because I like reading the information. I like looking at the pictures. They look really pretty all stacked up together, you know, with all the pictures showing. So I'm still old-fashioned in that way.
I am too. And
but
the vinyls
if I had
are
a way
like
to play vinyl, I'd be buying your vinyl. But I'm waiting for your CD.
Okay.
So before we end, let's talk about little Miko Marx, who was running around the house at 3 singing. What would you say to that little girl now, knowing what you know at age whatever, and all that you've already been through, all the successes you've had, all the sometimes not successes? What would you say to that little girl who was singing country western music at 3 years old and thinking, maybe at some point I can do this? What would you tell her?
I would say shine on, you know, because I've always been different, and my family is no different than any other family. Why are you singing country music? What are you doing that? That's not our music, you know. I would just say I've always been a little on the different side and comfortable with that, very comfortable with my artistry, and so I would just say shine on, maybe shine a little bit brighter.
Well, you certainly are a shining star. And from the very first time I met you 20 years ago, I said to my producer, she is a star. I don't know what's going to happen, but she's already a star.
Thank you.
Every time I see something about you, I feel sort of a personal pride, like like you're my daughter or something.
Yes.
But it's really wonderful, and I loved having this chance to sit down and talk with you. So we'd like to thank Johnny Burrell, who was here today videoing all of this, and then we'd also like to thank Thelma Harris, who provided us with this lovely, lovely setting with all this beautiful artwork. Come visit her. You'll not leave without spending some money. And of course, buy everything that Miko Marx does. And thank you again for coming today. And I'm so glad that we had gotten our shots so we didn't have to do this wearing masks.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So we've talked all about your music, and the one thing that I haven't said yet is if someone wants to find you for a performance, wants to buy your music, whatever, how do they reach you?
You can reach me at mikomarx.com. All my booking information is there. All the music's there. Anything you want to know, just go to mikomarx.com and you'll find it.
And there's some wonderful YouTube videos too that I watched.
Yes, Miko Marx Music on YouTube. You can find all the videos I've done to date, and also all the streaming platforms for the music.
Great. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.